question I get often is, how do you set up a guest operating system within VirtualBox? How can you virtualize this without putting a lot of money into it? I'm using VirtualBox version 4.0.8. I don't believe this is the most recent version, but it will do for this video. The list here on the left is a list of virtual drives that I've set up. As you can see, I have several different operating systems as well. I'm going to create one from scratch using the Ubuntu 11.04 setup. As you can see, you select the type of operating system and the version. You can go to Windows, you can go as far back as Windows 3.1, or as current as Windows 7 64-bit, or you have Linux, Solaris, BSD, IBM OS 2, or Mac OS X. We're going to go with Linux. As you can see, the green portion of this slider indicates the memory that I can allocate to this virtual machine safely. The software tells me that the base memory size that they recommend is 512 megs of memory. However, I have 2 gigs worth of RAM in my physical computer, so I'm going to bump this up a little bit. Be a little risky. I may have to adjust this later depending on my screen recording and memory usage, but we'll tackle that later. Here we can set up our new hard disk, or you can install on an existing virtual drive. For this situation, I'm going to use the create a new hard disk option. We'll click next. That will launch us into the virtual disk wizard. You have 2 options: dynamically expanding storage or fixed size storage. You can see what both of those are by the upper part of this dialog box. Fixed size storage basically means if you create a 40 gigabyte virtual drive, it's going to take up 40 gigabytes of data on your hard drive physically, since VirtualBox will create this drive as a single file. I'm going to select dynamically expanding storage because as you build your virtual drive, it will start to allocate more physical drive usage for the virtual drive file on your physical hard drive. So we're going to go ahead and take dynamically expanding storage as our option, and we're going to click on next. This is where we're going to create the size of our drive. I want mine to max out at 80 gigs. I'm using an external hard drive to store the image on. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to go ahead and change my naming convention. That's just easier for me to look through it. I tend to organize a lot of those. I've been doing that way for quite a while now. So we have the path to our virtual drive, and we have our 80 gigabyte drive set up. We're going to go ahead and if you decide you want to change this, you can click back. I'm going to go ahead and select finish. It'll give us a summary with more of the same information. And there we go. We've created a virtual drive. You can think of this as a virtual computer. If you click on settings, you'll launch this dialog box. Here you have the basic information we chose during the setup. We have where the snapshots will be stored. This is our memory. If you need to adjust it, you click on the system heading and you could adjust that. I'm going to deactivate the floppy drive because I don't have one. I'm not going to need one for this. I'm going to leave the CD, DVD, ROM. That way we have something to install from. The other options here we can just leave as default. That's no big deal. Depending on the operating system that you're wanting to install, if you're using something other than Ubuntu or Linux, you may need to select different options. You can select up to 4 CPUs to be utilized, depending on your physical hardware. In my case, I can go up to 2 CPUs. I'm just going to leave it at 1. I don't really have any need to bump it up to 2 because this is just a test box. So you can leave all this as default as well. You can step down into display. One thing you will want to change is you want to change the video memory that's allocated for the graphics in your virtual machine. I can go up as high as 128 meg. I'll bump it up to 120. I'm going to go ahead and enable 3D acceleration. I'm not going to worry too much with enable 2D acceleration. The storage option allows us to select what we were going to boot. Because right now we basically have a blank hard drive. I'm going to use a live ISO disk. Basically it's an image file of the live CD instead of using a physical Ubuntu boot CD. That doesn't matter to the computer, to the virtual machine. It sees the ISO file as an existing operating system. You can see that our drive is set up for 80 gigs. Right now, the actual drive size, the actual file size, is 324 kilobytes. You can leave the audio and the network. I don't need serial settings. I will set up a couple empty USB filters. I have some USB flash drives I'd like to attach later if I decide to do anything worth saving. I'm not going to worry with shared folders at the time, so we'll go ahead and click OK. Since we've set our ISO file to boot, it's the same as putting a live CD in your physical computer and booting from it. You're going to see this option. This tells you how to get back out of the virtual machine. You'll press the host key at any time to uncapture the mouse and keyboard. The host key is defined as the right control key on the keyboard. That's down by the up, down, left, and right arrow keys on most keyboards. We'll go ahead and click on Start. We're going to get the option here about the 32-bit color mode and just click OK there. We'll give it just a second. And there you go. As you can see, we're now booting Ubuntu 11.04.